Hello everyone. Today we're diving into a murder mystery, one of my favourite genre of books, movies and of course video games. The story is called Detective Instinct, Farewell My Beloved. If you're at all into mystery stories and movies, you might recognise a reference there to the famous Raymond Chandler novel Farewell My Lovely, which has had several screen adaptations. Now, the story of Detective Instinct is about two college students and their professor taking a train journey back home, a long 3-day journey on a beautiful train. You could call it a luxury train. Yes, it sounds just a little bit like Murder on the Orient Express, doesn't it? The famous Agatha Christie novel, also made into movies several times. You may have seen one of them. They become involved in mysterious happenings. A lady vanishes as if into thin air. Wait a moment, isn't there? Yes, there is. A very famous story called The Lady Vanishes, one of the early Hitchcock movies, 1938. It's absolutely brilliant. If you haven't had a chance to see it, please try and catch up with it. So now you're wondering, is this game just a rag bag of various mystery story elements thrown together? Fortunately, no. The game takes clear inspiration from many sources, novels, movies, and many older video games. But the story feels completely fresh and introduces a theme I haven't encountered before in other games of this type. I think you'll be intrigued how they've done it, using some conventional tropes and mechanics, while introducing a very fresh approach. I would call it a love letter to classic games and stories of murder mysteries, in a way reinvigorating this wonderful genre. Thank you very much to Armonica for the review code. Now let's step onto that train and have a look at how the story is told, what are the building blocks, without giving away any spoilers. This is how the story begins, and it's the only time where I'm showing you a more extended video clip. Don't worry, I edit everything extremely carefully. The opening of Chapter 1 also serves as a kind of tutorial for the menu system used for this investigation. It's called the Command Select menu, and it's very similar to a basic computer menu structure. It was used extensively in Japanese investigative mystery games going back to the 1990s and 80s. But has only really recently made an appearance in the West in translation with something like the Famicom Detective Club series of games. The opening scene shows us straight away a lot of the humour but also intrigue that is one of the hallmarks of this game. Unfortunately, with an indie title like this, there obviously was no budget for voice acting, which I think could have really made a huge impact. And here here's the introduction to the Command Select menu system with just a few basic functions. I think they're all self-explanatory, and the one important thing to remember if you ever get stuck is to keep exploring the menu and triggering a dialogue, maybe multiple times, but the think or discuss command will always give you some kind of hint as to what might be the next step to take. The one point I can absolutely reassure you about is that there are no trick questions. There are no long-winded circuitous routes that you have to walk around conversations like a dozen times before you get somewhere. Every evidence-chasing or questioning I did was, I would say, pretty straightforward, especially going by my experience with the Famicom Detective series. The developer stated in an interview that, I quote, "We tried to be very forgiving. We're not trying to really stump people. We just want players to feel immersed in our story and characters." And that is really the experience I had with this game. Based on this gameplay style, I would call Detective Instinct a really cozy murder mystery game. And now we meet Detective Inspector Daltrey, an obviously very important character for what happens in the game. He is one of many very entertaining characters. In fact, at first I suspected he might be some kind of fake. I thought of him from here on out as the laughing detective. You get to name your protagonist, which really helps with the immersion. And from here on, you develop a nice kind of working relationship with Daltrey, which will stand you in good stead for the later events. Daltrey really is a hard case. Ogden goes to check outside the hotel, and sure enough, he finds his fellow student Emma there, and we get an instant impression of her naturally very curious and inquisitive character. I thought all the characters in this story were well drawn, but by far my favourite was Emma. She and Ogden also briefly meet their Professor Martin, and then they're drawn into a little bit of further investigation of the crime scene with Detective Daltrey. I was immediately drawn to the pixel art in this game. I think it's fantastic. The developers mentioned that their love of older games very much influenced them, but in particular one game series, and that is Ace Attorney, was a big source of inspiration. The game settings are quite basic. My personal preference for text speed is instant, so I would have quite liked that. And silly me only now realised that speaker sounds is the setting to switch off if you don't want the constant noise of the typewriter clatter. Tomorrow our epic train journey begins, but first Detective Daltrey makes an interesting observation showing a bit how he thinks. I think we can all see what he's getting at. And to end the night, we are introduced to point-and-click investigation. Again, very straightforward and clearly will be of crucial importance once everybody is stuck on that train. At the end of each day, Emma and your protagonist review the findings of the day. Here they do so with Daltrey. You'll find out whether you've remembered all the details correctly and will then formulate a plan for the next day. For obvious reasons, I can't show you the questions and answers. But I just want to reassure you that should you get anything wrong, there is no penalty of any kind. In a very natural dialogue style, Emma will simply correct you, and you carry on. I absolutely need to introduce you to Palmer and Dennis. They are the comedic supporting actors in this game. There is a lot to take in with Palmer and Dennis, but of course there is one detail, the needle in the haystack, you need to watch out for. One bonus reason why I find them so hilarious is that the developers have recreated the roles of the two cricket fanatics, Charters and Caldecott, in the 1938 movie The Lady Vanishes. They are completely oblivious of all the mayhem going on around them, and they are some of my favourite scenes in that movie. There is even a very short and sweet golfing minigame on offer. Palmer and Dennis are definitely not copies of the two cricket gents from Hitchcock's movie, but it is great fun to trace that inspiration for a memorable golfing-obsessed comedy duo. The soundtrack is suitably for a game of this type, supportive and mainly in the background. The developers explained in the interview that almost everything in our score is arranged with acoustic instruments, with a focus on piano, guitar and strings. This works well, I think, and I found it pleasant, but it wasn't a great highlight for me. That lies firmly with story, characters and theme, the pixel art and, of course, the gameplay as well. The story is anchored by the theme of a country divided into East and West and the resulting refugee problem, a not uncommon problem during the Cold War era. On a personal note, I grew up during the Cold War era in West Germany, quite close to the border with East Germany, the so-called Iron Curtain. And I was surprised how well the story grasped the complexity of this issue while conveying the emotional weight in a relatable manner for modern audiences. Kudos to those who researched and wrote the story. The theme is obviously a very serious one and seems at first glance at odds with the, so far, more entertaining and even humorous story elements. However, I found that those two sides actually meshed very well. For example, our laughing detective plays a surprisingly important part on this darker issue too. I completed the game quite comfortably in about 6 hours, which is within the quoted time by the developers of 6 to 8 hours. This is often considered a short playing time. But I really appreciated that the game doesn't have any meaningless padding or repetition. The action moves along at a good pace, facilitated by the streamlined gameplay. In short, the game respects your time. It is astonishing what they manage to fit into that shortish playtime, especially since none of the story elements feel rushed. Again, I would say that this is mainly due to good writing. Like, for example, here with Vida and Monty, a most surprising couple. My feelings for them changed 180 degrees during my time with them on the train. The bartender Vida referred to is really super creepy. What a great cast of characters. Let me proceed to my verdict. There's a lot more I could say about this game, but with a story as compact as this one, it becomes incredibly difficult to avoid story-related spoilers. I have discussed the art style and the music, the gameplay mechanics, the story and its theme. I've given you an impression of a fair number of the characters, so I won't repeat all of that now. I have even indulged a bit in showing you some of the references to material that the developers took inspiration from books and movies and other games. And I've only shown you the tip of the iceberg. There are many more of such Easter egg type references scattered about. I hope you have fun tracking them down. To summarize my thoughts about the game, I see this as the ideal adventure game to curl up with, especially now that the nights are drawing in the Northern Hemisphere. The strength of detective instinct lies in how the story unfolds. They chose a very difficult subject matter for their theme and succeeded, I think, because they chose a humanistic approach to the problems and how the characters respond to the situations. I can't remember when I saw so much character development take place in such a short time span for a game. I loved playing Detective Instinct and hope I have given you enough impressions so you can work out whether the game is right for you. So, what did you think? Does it look interesting? I had a great time with this story. You might be wondering if there is a happy end. The very final scene is lovely and sweet. I was really happy with the ending, and I think you will be too. I would very much like to see more mystery adventures from this indie studio. In the meantime, I hope you enjoy your time with Detective Instinct. Let me know if you are a murder mystery buff and fan, just as I am. Will you be checking out Detective Instinct? Thank you very much for watching. As always, I appreciate your time. Please keep well. I'm Food for Dogs. Bye-bye.